Welcome to Private Equity Profits. Clifford Locks is a certified board of director, a trusted confidant to CEOs, C-level exec, and high-potential employees to help them clarify goals, unlock their potential, and create actionable strategic plans. Seth Greene is the nation's foremost authority on growing your portfolio companies with direct response marketing. He is the founder of the direct response marketing firm Market Domination LLC, and he is an 8-time best-selling author who has been interviewed on NBC, CBS, Forbes Inc., CBS Money Watch, and many more. Cliff and Seth interview top players in the financial sector, focusing on private equity firms, venture capital companies, and family offices, discussing developments and trends shaping the industry. These experts will share with you how they've grown their businesses and increased profit, and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Cliff Locks.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Private Equities Profits Podcast. I'm Cliff Locks, your host. Today, our guest is Nima Zegarra. He has a very different story than most of our guests we have on the show. Harry grew up in Peru, always knowing he wanted to become a doctor. After residency, he and his wife, also a doctor, realized that the debt and long working hours were preventing him from having the freedom that they wanted, and it steered them into real estate investing. While still practicing medicine in Dallas, Texas, Harry and his wife, Mitzi, started Nima Equity, a real estate investment company focused on helping professionals and families achieve financial freedom so they can take control of their time and future. Harry currently owns and manages 9 properties across Texas, Georgia, the Midwest, and the Southeastern U.S. Nima Equity is to date a general partner in 784 units in 4 different states. Harry, thanks so much for being on the show today with us.
Hey, Cliff, how are you? Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Very excited to be here today.
Tell me about your background in Peru and how you knew that you wanted to become a doctor.
My wife and I, we both are from Peru.
Mm-hmm.
We both are physicians. We actually went to medical school together. We were in the same class. We were like in the same class and studying and training together for 7-8 years before we decided to come here to the US. How everything started is kind of difficult to say. I always was very interested and intrigued by science. And I mean, at some point I started liking more biology. And when I discovered that you can mix that with also helping other people try to ease their illness. But not just that, sometimes despite your best intentions and your best treatments, you're not able to get good results, but at least you're able to provide some peace to your patients and their families. So that's something that I discovered early in life. And we really like that. So that's why we decided to follow our journey in medicine initially.
After becoming a doctor, you and your wife realized that you did not have the financial freedom that you thought you would have. What were the biggest factors that were preventing that freedom?
As you mentioned before, so we transitioned our training and our journey from Peru to the US. It was a difficult transition, of course, because you can imagine the medical school system was different and the training was different. It was a big difference, but we decided to jump in also because we wanted to have a better life, better training, and get the best education possible. So as I mentioned before, so we started in our residency. We initially came to Pennsylvania about 15 years ago, my wife and I initially started the residency in internal medicine. A year after that, my wife started in family medicine. And yeah, I mean, there's always the struggles when you're just starting, right? And you can imagine initially we coming from Peru, which is a third world country, coming to the US, there were big challenges, right? Even just taking the test to become a proficient physician here in the US, to also go into the interviews and just qualifying to become a doctor here in the US was difficult. Right. And after that, you need to go through training, right? It's at least 3 years in internal medicine and family medicine. And after that, I decided I really wanted to continue my training in pulmonary and critical care. So it was a long journey. And as you can imagine, we were moving from state to state. So initially we started in Pennsylvania, then we moved to Virginia. I did another 3 years in pulmonary and critical care. And it's funny. At some point, you think you're done with your training, you're done with all the effort in life, and then you finish, and there are new challenges out there, right? Especially in managing, being able to manage your time being able to spend enough time with your family, your wife. And it's not necessarily our case because we come from South America, like in terms of debts and financial struggles. But absolutely, we understand what usually happens in the educational system here in the US. And you finish your medical school and you finish with a lot of debt. And you, at some point, you also want to start your practice. That also you need to invest money. At some point, you also want to buy a house for you and your family. So you finish your training and your medical school and you start facing a lot of challenges, right? Like, I mean, like in part because of time, but also in part because of like the economic burden that you have accumulated over those years.
There's two of you too, when you talk about, the need for debt and then being able to pay that back. So who first introduced you to real estate investing and what did you learn from them?
I have to be honest, like the first time it was back in Peru. Most of my family, like my mom, didn't have the chance to go to college and to get like a professional career. So they started, like my mom, at least she had her beauty salon and she was invested in different endeavors. One of them was real estate. So I learned from very early in life, I mean, how she really hustled up, like, and was able to work really hard to provide education that we needed, like to become successful. So, and we saw that she was able, like, to buy a small hotel, and then she was able to buy two small, like, apartment units. And we witnessed how that helped her, like, our finances, and also like to achieve more freedom at the end. And she was able to send me actually, like, to the US. I mean, I'm very grateful about that, immensely grateful that it was mainly because of her that I was able to come here to continue my training.
It's exciting. It's a family effort, and the developing world does provide opportunities for young people.
Yes.
You can see entrepreneurship allowed your family to thrive, which is really great.
Absolutely. Yes.
Story.
And then when we came here to the US, as you, just to continue your question, we were very exposed to that. And I mean, I already knew about real estate. So I started taking some education about that. And you probably have heard, like, about the bigger pockets, or for physicians also, it's called like the white coat investor, which are websites and forums that teach you about financial education and how to invest in different assets, just not only like stock market and mutual funds. Actually, when we moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia, we were going to start like my fellowship. So we decided to buy like a townhouse. We knew that we were going to stay in Virginia for at least 3 years. And we didn't want to rent initially, because initially we had like the mindset of the consumer, right? Like, so we want to just save money. It's not an investment. We just want to save money. But then, like, when we finished our training, we were moving now to Texas after 3 years, and we decided to sell that property. And we were very nicely surprised that it had nicely appreciated in just a matter of years. So that's initially how we started. And then, like, when we came to Texas, it was South Texas, actually, where I worked for 2 years in private practice. At some point, we like our partners, and we like our network there. And we were planning even like to build a house. So we bought like a piece of land. At the end, actually, we moved to Dallas, where we live right now. And we also decided to sell that lot. And we also were nicely surprised that it also had appreciated in just 2 years, even like a piece of land. So we were really primed when we came to Dallas, and that was 5 years ago. So initially we came to Dallas, and we bought like our primary residence almost immediately after 4 or 5 months being here. And after that, our journey of investing in real estate started.
So what motivated you to take the next step in investigating in passive investing?
Yes. So initially, actually, it was in residential real estate. Okay. Initially, we were investing like in single family houses for the first couple of years. It was not until probably a year and a half that when we started accumulating more properties in this area, that it was becoming more kind of like a second job, right? Like when you start like doing single family houses, which is the way that many people actually start in real estate. And it's because it's mainly bread and butter real estate in the US. And many people just see about that, like flipping houses or being a landlord. So that's to some degree how we started. Even with the help of a property manager, who's a really good property manager, is a good friend of mine. You get to spend a lot of time managing your houses, and actually you spend a lot of time and effort, then you are also have the responsibilities and also liabilities when you're having these properties under your name, even if it's under an LLC. It was becoming a point where it was becoming a second job. So that's when we decided, again, like about like a year and a half ago, to transition to commercial real estate. Initially, we were again like doing some education and doing our research. We were going to meetups, starting to go to conference, listen to audiobooks. So again, like it's not that we just decided that we jump into that. So we did our due diligence in trying to investigate more about that. And that's when we decided like to jump into commercial real estate, and more specifically apartment complex syndications.
That's interesting. You learned that working together with other real estate professionals was beneficial. What does that teamwork provide for someone looking to invest in real estate?
Absolutely. That's super important. And we did even learn that with single family houses. Because if you think about it, like when you are investing in single family houses, you also depend on other people, right? Like you depend on your property manager, you depend on your contractor, on the person at the title company, the lender. So that's actually when we initially started like working in teams, respecting and trusting other people. And then that got like more important even when we transitioned to commercial real estate. In commercial real estate, everyone says, and it's absolutely true, it's a team sport. And you need to lean on other people with different skill sets and backgrounds, that they have like their expertise in different fields, right? For example, like if you ask me in syndication of apartment complexes, we usually team up with other experts in the field who have been there again, like for at least 3 to 5 years in the field of syndications. And most of them are doing this full time. So people who do, for example, underwriting, there's other people who are more expert in capital raise, or people more in asset management, other people in relations with investors and things like that. So it's very important. And to some degree, that reminds me again, like my work at the hospital, right? Like I'm a critical care doctor, and many times we do rounds, and absolutely we know as physicians that we don't know everything, and we also lean on the great work of our nurses, our respiratory therapists, the nutritionists, the pharmacists. So I found that very appealing to me, because to some degree that remind me of my work at the hospital. So that was very exciting when I found that.
What are the tax benefits of investing in real estate?
Yes, so we actually have witnessed this over the last couple of years. It has been exciting to us. Again, we have seen this in residential real estate, but also in commercial real estate. It's even more important. So you have, again, like the depreciation, cost segregation studies, bonus depreciation, which is pretty much paper losses that you can apply towards your passive income when you invest in these syndications, right? Like, which makes initially like your gains in the first 4 years from cash flow to be pretty much tax-free. And there's something that we need obviously to disclose. I mean, we're not CPAs. And again, it's not that the IRS is forgiving that. We're deferring these taxes, right? Like, and that's something that's very important to me when I talk with my investors. I always tell them like, hey, you need to discuss with your CPA, with your financial advisor, because especially at year 4 or 5, when your sponsor is planning to sell the asset, and then you're gonna get like most of your income like from this investment at the end of the life of this investment, you need to plan for that, right? Like so, and there's good ways and legal ways to manage that. But again, I always recommend them to discuss that with their advisors.
Sage advice. You need your professionals to help guide you, because you're going to have an infusion of additional profits coming in. And the idea that you're in a position where you can actually upgrade into another property or do an even exchange will be very, very positive to delay those tax implications. How does investing in real estate give you the freedom to live life the way you want to?
We have seen and we have witnessed over the last couple of years with our different investments in real estate, our passive income is increasing. We're still not there to the point that we're able to fully replace our salaries, because as you understand, we are physicians and we're high earners. In theory, like the more you make, the more difficult is to replace your income, and it takes longer. But we're very hopeful about that, and we're very hopeful about the future in the terms that we have other sources of income. And because of that, we feel we have choices. It's just not like I'm a physician, I'm only depending on my work to provide to my family. This is very important, especially because of what happened in the last 2 years with COVID in the US, that physicians are very vulnerable. So if at any point something happens to us, we're going to be like in a very difficult situation. So that's why, in part, that pushed me and that motivated us to go into this journey.
You started a company to help other professionals create passive income with real estate. What motivated you to do so? And what challenges were associated with that? And how did you overcome them?
We, again, like a year and a half ago, we decided to move into commercial real estate. We found it like more appealing to our lifestyle to become like investors, passive and also active investors. We decided to follow that route. At the same time, we shared our story with our close friends and colleagues, because to some degree, we feel we have the mission to share this, because we feel that other people would maybe kind of struggling like the way that at some point we were doing. It was initially very, very organic, so I share my story to my friends who are physicians too, and my colleagues. And they had known me already that I was investing in real estate for a couple of years. And they knew that I was making, I guess, good decisions with the single family houses initially. So they were really on board, actually. And they were really on board. And it has been a blessing, like to try to make them join like other assets in investing, but also to get more education in finance, right? Like, so that's very important. And to your question too, when you mention some of the difficulties or struggles or challenges for us in this journey, one is time, right? Like time is something that we cannot get back. So it's very difficult, especially when you are starting any endeavor, any journey, any project. You usually need to put time up front, right? Like, so that's one of that. But we're doing this with the plans that this is going to pay off in the future for me and my family. So, and the second thing is, there's one of the misconceptions that people think that physicians only need to be physicians, or lawyers only are lawyers, or things like that. But yeah, there's other things out there for most of us. And I always recommend people like to start exploring other things, to learn about them. And if they have passion about something, just to try to follow their passion. That's
very important. A well-rounded individual continues. It's a lifetime of learning. And
Absolutely.
Those friendships are real. What do you see as the foundation of sound real estate investment?
It is very important, again, as I just mentioned, to get education on that. One true in life, like about investing, is that you tend to invest or put your money in things that you're familiar with, and things that you understand. People tend to just invest in stocks, in mutual funds, in 401ks. But again, like they don't know that there are other investments, assets out there. And it's just not real estate, actually. There's other things, right? Like there's even like ATMs, there's storage, there's energy, there's oil. So it's just out there like for you to get educated and to go out there. One of them, like education, that for us is very important. The second thing is like to get to know like the person that you're working with, and to know that person has a good reputation, a good track record, and ask also for references. It's not going to offend anyone. And when I talk with new investors with me, I like to say, like, at any point you need a reference, if at any point you need to talk to someone who has worked with me in the past or has invested with me in the past, absolutely, I'm more than happy to show it to you.
What you're really talking about is trust, the foundation of being able to do business together and build a friendship, and that continues to scale and thrive. So what are the pitfalls associated with investing in real estate, and how do you overcome them?
Like, at least like in commercial real estate, there's always like you need to disclose when you have someone who is interested in investing with you. You need to be open, need to be honest, and need to explain to them, right? Like, so for example, in syndications, an illiquid investment, right? Like, so they need to understand that it's not like, hey, I changed my mind next week and I'm going to take my money out. So that doesn't work like that. So that's one thing. Like, the other thing is, again, like, it's a passive investment, right? So that's good and bad, right? Like, it's good because you can sit back and relax, and to some degree enjoy like you leveraging other expertise in your investment. However, for some people who may want to do things on themselves, it's difficult, right? Like, so because you have control on that investment, right? Like, so they need to understand that. And the third thing is, again, like, and I always tell them, this is an investment. So this is not necessarily something that is 100% sure. We make our best efforts to make our analysis, our projections work, but it still is an investment. And we actually invest with you. So when people come to me, I always have this mission also to put my own money with my investors, because like I think it talks really well about me and also about the project, that we believe in the project and that we also have a skin in the game.
Very important. You have a vested interest in each one of the projects. So currently, are you focusing on a particular type of real estate? If so, what do you see the benefits of sticking with that particular real estate?
Yeah, so we're mainly focused on apartment complexes.
Okay.
And again, in the mode of syndications, we have found that apartment complexes are very resilient. Even in 2007, 2008, I even remember like the defaults on apartment complexes mortgages were really low, like less than 1% comparing to other classes. Also, apartment complexes provides housing, right? Like, which is a necessity. It's not something like in general, like people want just to invest or to buy something. I mean, you can always buy a car next year, or you can buy something for your family. You can delay that, but housing is a necessity. So that's very important. The market has been great for all of us in the last couple of years. Of course, we don't know where it's necessarily going. There's some information out there. The rates are like starting to going up again, and insurance to keep the rates low are becoming more expensive. I mean, still, we're very bullish about that because there's still a huge deficit in housing in the US. And that, unfortunately, is not going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're still invested in that.
It should be interesting when we look at, I have 3 children. How many children do you have?
I have 2. I have 2 boys. One is 6, one is 10 years old.
Well, they're young. Okay. Mine are a little older. Okay. And I'm looking at the 28, 30, 32.
Oh, okay. They're very active boys, mine. I mean, like they are playing all the time and fighting all the time together. But yeah, they are a blessing for us. I mean, we really enjoy them. And they are like in sports. Like on the weekends, we feel like we're like the Uber drivers for our kids. we take them to different...
Yeah, we had done some sports and also did scouting with them. And the scouting was enjoyable, going out on some of the outings. And then there's a merit badge program to help that young person figure out what their career plan will be. That was one of the benefits in scouting, and a well-rounded individual. And the merit badges will, if they want to earn their Eagle, will have first aid, personal management, which is the financial side of it. But then they can take a multitude, it could be something on business, sales, a variety of merit badges, in various different verticals, computers, IT, electricity, electronic. Going back, do you see any trends in the real estate investing sphere? And is there any way to take advantage of them? Well,
like in the last year and a half, 2 years, we have seen a great influx of money in the market.
Okay.
We have seen like there are many investors out there trying to put their hard-earned money and like safe assets, right? Like, so real estate is one of them. Okay. And not necessarily just syndications and apartment complexes. I mean, there's other good investments out there, other new hot investments out there. Like, for example, like, we talk of different investments. I can tell you about like storage has been there like for decades already, and actually continues to be resilient and with great cash flow benefits. Also, there's like short-term rentals with, like with this Airbnb, VRBO, and it's super, super hot. And also I have seen like lately assisted living investments, even in the syndication model. So this is other ways how to invest. We're mainly focused right now on apartment complexes because initially we want to focus on something and be an expert on something before we start diversifying more.
So that focus made it so you became an expert with your team, and it makes sure that things are going to stay profitable for you.
Yes.
We see inflation. It's probably at 15 to 20%. I know they say it's 7.5%, but I don't agree with that. You can see, I know gas here in New York and Long Island is $4.19 a gallon.
Wow, that hurts.
It hurt. Well, it is what it is. Gasoline is at $5 and change, let's say, over in the West Coast in California. Yeah. Gas at this point is $125 per barrel. Could go to $200. So when you're starting to look at, what does it look like as an ecosystem? That they don't make any more land. Yes. So the ability to be able to increase rents will be important. But we also know that the individual's salaries probably are not going to keep up with inflation. Purchase power is probably going to get reduced. So it should get interesting. Smart people,
Yes.
all of us, that are listening to this podcast are very high and ultra high individuals. We're all, have our own children, and the ability to help bring them in. The other thing I mentioned to my listeners is you'll find our folks that we're like Harry that we're interviewing will work with your child, meaning you could give them $5 million, $10 million, and you could work with Harry and he'll help that young person understand the moving pieces that are in place to become a good investor, somebody that's educated, does the homework, the due diligence, but you've got somebody that you can trust on the other side that will help you educate your children, because wealth is a wonderful tool, but it needs to have the foundation of the legacy of the family. They don't always listen to mom and dad. So the ability to look at trusted individuals that are out there and they're actually doing the investing to allow your child to co-invest or join the syndication and get themselves up and running and educated is a wonderful way for them to flourish and be part of the heritage that you have in your family.
Absolutely.
Harry, is there anything I haven't touched on that you would like to add or expand on?
No, I really thank you for inviting me to your show. I really had a good time talking to you and kind of sharing a little bit more about my story and our company. And again, I always tell my investors, living in very interesting times right now, really good to have education, to think about your future. Mm-hmm. But also when you do your education, it's very important also at some point to take action, because education and knowledge is important, but without action, it doesn't get you anywhere.
How can our listeners contact you? Are there any links that you would like to share?
Yes, absolutely. So we have our website, which is nimaequity.com. Nima is N as in Nancy, IMA equity.com. There in our website, we have like 7-day email course for mainly physicians, because we have the background of being physician, but in general, it's for any professional who wants to start investing in real estate. And I always give my friends or my investors the option and choices about like, you can invest actively or passively. You can start like one or another investment. The important thing is for you to get started on that and have the knowledge about that. And also we have our YouTube channel that we try to release every week, like a short video about like education also in real estate. So they can look out for that.
So on your website, you have a link to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we have like some Excellent. Of the YouTube videos in there already.
Fantastic. I want to thank you so much for your time, Harry. You provided a map for busy professionals to participate in their passion and create the freedom that they seek at the same time. It's inspiring, and I appreciate you sharing. Thank you to our listeners. I look forward to being back with you shortly for another episode of the Private Equity Profits Podcast. The show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC.
Thank you, Cliff. I really appreciate your invitation. I'm very honored to be here today.
Thank you for that.